The first time I realized my girlfriend's mother thought I was worthless, I was sitting in her office on a Thursday afternoon, watching her count out $100 bills like she was paying off a gambling debt. 10,000, Diane said, sliding the cash across the glass desk. That should be enough to disappear. Permanently. I looked at the money, then I looked at Sloane, who was sitting on the leather couch behind me, scrolling through her phone. She hadn't looked up once since we walked in. Did you hear me? Diane's manicured nails tapped the desk. I said 10,000. That's more than you'd make in a year, isn't it? I didn't answer. I was doing the math in my head. $10,000 was what I paid for a single calf back home, a decent one. Sure, but nothing special. The dowry for a bride in my family started at 1,000 head of cattle. Purebred, registered. The kind that cost more than this woman's entire office furniture. I'm talking to you, cowboy. Sloane, I said, my voice even. Is this what you want? She finally looked up from her phone, and I saw it in her eyes. That flicker of annoyance I'd been seeing more and more over the past 6 months. The impatience. Like I was an inconvenience, she'd outgrown. I think you should take the money, Cole, she said. Victor's coming over in 20 minutes, and I don't want him to get the wrong impression. Victor did, of course, the guy who'd been orbiting her for weeks, the biochem major who talked about being a CEO like it was a foregone conclusion. The one who couldn't afford a decent meal but somehow convinced Sloane he was going to be a billionaire. What impression would that be? I asked. That we're still. She waved her hand vaguely. Together. We are together. We have been for 18 months. Not really. She went back to her phone. Not in a way that matters. Diane slid the cash closer to me. Look, son, I don't want to be cruel, but you're from the middle of nowhere. You wear boots every single day, and my daughter has standards. She's not going to live in the middle of nowhere, cooking over a fire, smelling like. She stopped, probably realizing she'd gone too far. Like what? I asked. Like animals, Sloane said flatly. You smell like animals. It's in your clothes, your hair, everything. Victor noticed it the first time he met you. He said it was like you'd just come from a stable. I stood up. Take the money, Diane said, pushing it toward me. There are cameras in here. If you try anything, I'll have proof you threatened me. I don't want your money. Then you're even dumber than you look. $10,000 could change your life. You could buy a car, put a down payment on an apartment, actually become somebody. I already am somebody. She laughed at IT was a harsh, brittle sound. Is that what they tell you back home? That you're somebody important? Let me guess, your family has some cows, maybe even 50 of them. And that makes you a big shot in whatever dirt road town you're from. I walked toward the door. Where are you going? Sloane called out. Don't just walk away. That's so dramatic. I'm going home. To the farm? The one you're always talking about. Yes. What am I supposed to tell Victor? I turned around. Tell him the guy who smelled like animals is gone. He can have whatever he wants now. The girl, the money, the opportunity to be a CEO. Sloane stood up, finally putting down her phone. You don't have to be like this. I said you were still in my consideration. That's not nothing. Consideration? Yes, for my future. I can't just marry the first person who comes along. I have to think about my family's reputation, my mother's business. Victor can offer me things you can't. Like what? Like the future, he has a plan, a real one. He's going to change the meat industry. He'll be running a multi-million-dollar empire before he's 30. You're just going to stand around talking about your family's cattle herd forever. I turned around and left. Diane's voice followed me. Take the money. Don't be an idiot. I didn't take it. But I did hear Sloane's last words as the door closed behind me. Don't worry, Mom. He'll come back. He always does. She was wrong. The walk back to campus was 15 minutes. I took 20, mostly because I wanted to think. The thing about Sloane was that I'd never really tried to impress her. I'd shown up to our first date in a clean shirt and jeans, told her I was from a ranch in Montana, and let her assume whatever she wanted. She'd filled in the gaps with her own imagination. A struggling farm, a family scraping by, a guy who was lucky to be dating someone with money. I didn't correct her, partly because I wanted to see if she'd stick around when she thought I was nothing, and partly because the truth was complicated. The truth was that my family owned the biggest cattle operation in the state, 50,000 head. Maybe more now, I hadn't checked the numbers in a while because I didn't have to. The business ran itself, mostly, and my father had built it from nothing, and he made sure I knew how to run it too, even if I'd chosen to go to college for something else. I'd come to school looking for something I couldn't find back home. Something simple. A girl who liked me for me, not for my family's name or the herd or the land. I'd thought Sloane was that girl. I'd been wrong. Back in the dorm, I was packed and ready to leave within an hour, living out of a suitcase with something I'd learned young, traveling between ranches, meeting with buyers, flying to trade shows. I didn't have much, and the little I did have I could fit in one bag. My roommate Derek came back from class and stopped in the doorway. You're leaving early? Summer break. Starts tomorrow anyway. Yeah, but you were staying for graduation. Sloane's thing. What happened to that? Sloane happened. His face clouded. What did she do? Her mother gave me $10,000 to leave her alone. I'm sorry, what? 10,000. She counted it out in front of me. And you didn't take it? I didn't need it. Derek walked over and sat on his bed. Cole, I've known you for 3 years, but I've seen you eat ramen for a week straight. I've seen you wear the same boots since freshman year. You're telling me you turned down $10,000? It's not that much money. Not that much, he stared at me. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed him the picture from my father. A new addition to the herd. The caption read, twins, healthy, worth 70,000 each. He looked at the picture, then at me, then back at the picture. Cole. Yeah. Where do you actually live? Montana. And what do you actually do there? My family has a cattle operation. How many cattle? I hesitated. Enough. Enough for what? Enough that $10,000 is what I'd spend on feed for a week. Maybe less. Derek sat back, processing. Does Sloan know? No. She just thinks you're a poor farm boy from nowhere. She thinks I'm a poor farm boy from nowhere. He started laughing. Then he stopped. Wait. If she finds out... She won't. I'm not going back. That chapter's closed. Cole, you can't just walk away. She's made a fool of you. She laughed at you. Her mother tried to pay you off. She made a choice. I'm making mine. The next morning, I left. No goodbyes. No dramatic confrontations. Just a ride to the airport, a flight to Montana, and a truck waiting for me at the other end. The drive from the airport to the ranch was long, but I didn't mind that I rolled the windows down and let the air hit my face. IT smelled clean, like grass and dirt, and, yes, like animals. It smelled like home. By the time I pulled up to the main house, I'd already decided I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to pretend to be someone. I wasn't just to make a girl comfortable. I was going to let her make her own mistakes and live with them. My father met me on the porch. He was a big man, solid and quiet, with hands that had worked the land for 50 years. Back earlier than expected, he said. Plans changed. Girl? Girl. He nodded. There are worse ways to learn. I didn't tell her. About the ranch? About any of it. He was quiet for a minute. Then he said, you think if she'd known, she would have stayed? I think she would have pretended to stay. He nodded again. Good you found out before any damage was done. You want to see the herd? The new ones came in yesterday. Later. I need to think. I walked out to the pasture and stood there, looking at the animals spread across the hillside. 50,000 head. More if you counted the young ones. The herd was worth more than Sloan's mother would see in a lifetime. More than Victor's imaginary CEO salary. More than anything any of them could ever understand. And none of it mattered. None of it had ever mattered. 2 weeks passed. I got back into the rhythm of ranch life. Early mornings, long days, the kind of work that left you too tired to think about anything else. It was good. It was what I needed. Then my phone started blowing up. Sloan first. A text that read, where are you? I've been trying to reach you. I didn't respond. Then Diane. If you think ignoring us is going to make us chase you, you're wrong. We're done. Then my mother sent me a news article. Is this about you? I opened the link. IT was a local business piece, one of those puff pieces that ran in the regional paper. The headline was, Montana's largest rancher celebrates new partnership with second-generation heir. And there was a picture of me shaking hands with a buyer at an event I'd attended 6 months ago. I hadn't thought about the article. I'd done the interview on a whim, mostly to keep my mother happy. But now it was out there, and suddenly everything was different. My phone rang. Sloan. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. I turned my phone off and went back to work. The next day, I took the old truck into town for supplies. IT was a simple errand, something I'd done 1,000 times. But this time, there was a black SUV parked outside the general store with rental plates. I didn't think much of it until I walked out and saw Sloan leaning against the hood. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, the kind of raw, bare-faced look I'd only ever seen when she was sick. She was dressed in jeans and a jacket, nothing expensive, nothing designer. Cole. Sloan, what are you doing here? I called your mother. She told me where you'd be. I didn't say anything. Cole, I need to talk to you. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. I know now. About your family. About the ranch. I saw the article. And I want to apologize. For what? For telling me I smelled like animals? For letting your mother try to pay me off? For sleeping with Victor? Her face went pale. I never slept with Victor. Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I made a mistake. I let my mother get in my head. I let her convince me you weren't good enough. But you are. You're so much more than good enough. I know I am. She stepped closer. Come back with me. We can fix this. We can start over. Start over where? In your mother's office while she counts out more money? On the arm of your imaginary CEO. I'll make it up to you. I promise. I'll be better. I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw it. The desperation behind the apology. The way her eyes flickered to my truck, to the ranch in the distance, to the land that was worth more than she'd ever imagined. She wasn't here for me. She was here for the herd. Go home, Sloan. Please. Go home. And don't call me again. She didn't leave. I watched her get back into that black SUV and drive away, but I knew better. Sloan never let go of anything she wanted. She just regrouped, recalibrated, and came back with a better angle. 3 days later, I got a call from my foreman. Boss, we've got visitors. A woman and her mother. They're asking for you by name. Don't let them near the herd. Too late. The mother's already taking pictures of the calves. I drove out to the main pasture and found them exactly where I'd expected. Diane was standing by the fence, phone held high, recording video of the yearlings. Sloan was standing beside her, arms crossed, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Behind them, parked on the grass where it definitely shouldn't have been, was the same black SUV. The tires had already left deep ruts in the wet ground. You need to move your car, I said, walking up. You're damaging the pasture. Diane spun around, all smiles. Cole, there you are. We were just admiring your animals. They're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. They're cattle. Yes, of course. Cattle. Beautiful cattle. How many do you have again? Enough. Enough for what? She laughed, like we were old friends. I'm just teasing. I know it's a lot. The article said 50,000? Is that right? I didn't answer. Sloane stepped forward. Cole, we need to talk. Privately. There's nothing to say. There's everything to say. Her voice cracked. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Diane looked between us, then back at the herd. I'll just take some more pictures. You two talk. Take your time. She walked away, phone still held high, and I watched her go with a sinking feeling in my chest. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was a reconnaissance mission. Your mother doesn't want to see my cattle, I said. She wants to see how much they're worth. She just wants to understand. She didn't know who you really were. She knew exactly who I was. She just didn't care until there was money involved. Sloane's face flushed. That's not fair. Your mother tried to pay me off, with cash, in front of you, and you let her. I was confused. I was scared. Victor was telling me all these things, and I didn't know what to believe. Victor. Victor doesn't matter. He's nothing. He's nobody. Then why is he still around? He's not. I ended it. I ended everything. I studied her face, the earnest eyes, the trembling lips, the way she dressed down, trying to look approachable. Where is he now? I asked. Home, in the city. I left him behind. Him or the apartment he's been living in for free? She flinched just barely. That's what I thought. Later that night, my mother called. Those women came to see me today, she said. The mother and the daughter. What did they want? To apologize, to make amends. The daughter was very emotional. She cried. She said she'd made a terrible mistake. Did she tell you she let her mother pay me off? She told me everything, including that she's willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. Mom, she doesn't want to earn my trust. She wants to earn my herd. There was a pause on the other end. She did mention she'd like to see the books. I'm sure she did. Cole, I'm not telling you to forgive her, but I am telling you to be careful. People like that don't give up easily. I know. That's what scares me. 2 weeks passed. I went back to work, put my head down, and tried to forget about Sloane. IT wasn't hard. There was always something to do on a ranch this size. Calving season was in full swing, and every day brought new challenges. Then the reports started coming in. Small things at first, at a gate left open that shouldn't have been, at a fence cut in a remote pasture where no one had any business being. A water trough that had been drained overnight, leaving 100 head of cattle without access to drinking water. My foreman was worried. Could be kids, he said. Teenagers from town, looking for trouble. Could be. Or it could be someone who knows what they're doing. I thought about Victor, the biochem major who knew his way around a lab. The guy who talked about being a CEO of a meat empire before he'd even graduated. What do you know about Victor? I asked my foreman. Not much. Why? Because I think he's the one doing this. The next week, I hired a private investigator. Her name was Karen, and she'd done work for the ranch before. Background checks on employees, mostly, but she had a reputation for being thorough. Victor Desmond, she said, flipping through her notes. 25, biochemistry major, graduated top of his class, but struggled to find a job. Been living on his girlfriend's family's goodwill for the past year. I know that part. Interesting part is what he's been doing lately. He's been making trips to the State Agricultural University, specifically the Veterinary Pathology Department. What for? He's been asking about disease vectors, how to introduce pathogens into livestock populations. He's been very careful about it, used burner phones, paid in cash, but I've got a source who recognized him. I went cold. Could he actually do it? If he had access to the right materials? Yes. It's not as hard as you'd think. Anyone with a basic understanding of microbiology and access to a lab could cause significant damage. Damage to what? To your herd, Cole. He could wipe out a significant portion of your cattle with a single introduction. Foot and mouth, bovine tuberculosis, brucellosis. All it takes is one contaminated sample. How do I stop him? By getting ahead of it. I've already started compiling evidence. His visits to the lab, his internet searches, the cash withdrawals. We need enough to get a warrant. Do it. The next day, Sloane showed up at the ranch again. This time, she was alone. No mother, no expensive car, just her, standing at my front gate, looking small and vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. Cole, I need to talk to you. It's important. About what? Victor, I've been thinking about some things. About things he said. Things that didn't make sense at the time. Like what? She shifted her weight. He talks about being the hero of a story, about having a destiny. I thought it was just talk, just him being confident. But now I'm not so sure. Go on. He asked me about the ranch, about you, about how many people worked here, how many cattle you had, where the main water supply was. I told him. I thought he was just curious. But now you're worried. I'm scared, Cole. I think he's planning something. She was scared. I could see it in her eyes, hear it in her voice. And for the first time, I wondered if she was telling the truth. Victor showed up 3 days later. He wasn't subtle about it. He drove right up to the main house in a beat-up sedan, got out, and walked to my front door like he owned the place. Cole, he said when I opened the door, we need to talk. You need to leave. I'm not leaving. I've got something you want. Information. What information? About what's going to happen to your ranch. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Explain. I've been watching you, he said. I've seen the security, the cameras, the guards. You know something's coming. I know you're behind the damage to my property. I'm behind nothing. I'm just a guy who sees an opportunity. What opportunity? Your business. He smiled. It's vulnerable. The world doesn't know that yet, but I could destroy you, Cole. I could wipe out your entire herd with one pathogen, and there's nothing you could do to stop me. And why would you do that? Because you took something that was supposed to be mine. Sloan was supposed to be mine. Her family's money was supposed to be mine. But then you came along with your ranch and your inheritance and your cattle, and suddenly I was nothing. You were always nothing, Victor. Let me show you what nothing looks like. He pulled out his phone. I've got a sample here, a single vial of brucellosis. 1 dose, introduced into the water supply of a single pasture, and your entire herd is infected. Where did you get that? Does it matter? He was bluffing. He had to be. But I couldn't take that risk. I called the police that night. Not the local sheriff. I went straight to the state police. They'd dealt with agricultural crimes before, and they knew what was at stake. Victor Desmond. I told the detective. He's threatened to introduce a pathogen into my herd. Do you have proof? I have witness statements. I have the investigator's evidence. And I have a recording of him threatening me on my own porch. Send me everything you've got. I sent it all. And then I waited. 2 days later, Victor was arrested. He'd been in a lab on the university campus handling restricted material. When the police walked in, the brucellosis sample was in his backpack. So it was a detailed plan for introducing it into my water supply. The warrant for his arrest was based on my evidence. Sloan was called in for questioning. She'd been his girlfriend after all. She'd helped him. Maybe she'd known what he was planning. I didn't know, she said. I didn't know anything. But the evidence suggested otherwise. She'd been the one who told him about the water supply. She'd been the one who told him about the security, the manpower, the rotation schedules. And she'd been the one who'd brought him to the ranch in the first place. We knew all along, she confessed. Victor wanted the ranch. He thought if he could prove you were vulnerable, he could force you into a partnership. Force you to give him access. Partnership for what? To build his empire. He said if he controlled the supply chain, he could control the market. He just needed a foot in the door. And you were his foot. I was his everything. She started crying. But I didn't feel sorry for her. The ranch settled back into its rhythm. Victor was gone. Sloan was gone. The threats had stopped. For the first time in months, I could walk my land without looking over my shoulder. I started sleeping better, eating better, working better. And then my father told me about the wedding. There's been talk, he said, leaning against the fence, watching the herd. The Morrison family. They've got a daughter. Figured it's time we considered an alliance. An alliance or a marriage? Both. One and the same out here. I knew the Morrisons. Their ranch bordered ours on the east. They had good land, good cattle, good reputation, and the daughter, Tara, I remembered her from childhood. A wild thing with braids and a laugh that carried across the valley. I haven't seen her in years, I said. She's been abroad. School. Business. She's back now. Smart woman. Runs her own operation. She runs the ranch? Half of it. The other half's still her father's. But she's the one making decisions. I thought about it. A partnership with the Morrisons would be good for both families. Good for the land. Good for the business. But I wasn't interested in a marriage of convenience. I'd had enough of people wanting me for what I could give them. I'll meet her, I said. But I'm not promising anything. My father nodded. That's all I ask. We met at the county fair. It was a good neutral ground. Too public for pressure. Too casual for pretense. Tara found me by the cattle pens, watching the judges evaluate a yearling. You're staring at that calf like it owes you money, she said, walking up beside me. I turned. She was tall, sun-browned, with the kind of easy confidence you only get from growing up on a ranch. Her hair was pulled back, practical and neat. Just making sure the judge knows what he's looking at. Does he? He better. That's one of mine. She laughed. Of course it is. Why am I not surprised? Should I be insulted? Should you? She smiled. I'm just saying you've got a reputation. Cole Dalton, the guy who shows up at a county fair and enters his own cattle. Someone has to keep the standards high. She shook her head, still smiling. You haven't changed at all. Neither have you. We spent the next hour walking the fairgrounds, catching up. She told me about her time abroad, the business courses she'd taken, the things she'd learned. I told her about the ranch, about the expansion, about the challenges of managing 50,000 head. You're doing it alone? She asked. Mostly. My father's still involved, but he's stepping back. Must be a lot to handle. It is, but I like it. It's honest work. She nodded. I feel the same way. Some people look at this life and see dirt and dust. I see purpose. I looked at her and realized she meant it. We started seeing each other after that. Nothing formal, just coffee in town, a few dinners, long conversations about everything and nothing. She was different from anyone I'd ever known, direct, honest, never playing games. You've got walls, she said one night, after I deflected another question about my past. I've got reasons. Sure you do. Everyone has reasons. But you're still standing here, aren't you? Talking to me? That's progress. You think so? I know so. The first time we met, you couldn't look me in the eye for more than a second. Now you're holding a conversation. I laughed. You're very observant. It's my job. You can't run a ranch if you don't notice things. She was right. She noticed everything, including the fact that I never talked about Sloan. Sloan showed up at the ranch 3 months later. I was in the main barn, checking on a new foal, when I heard her voice behind me. Cole, I need to talk to you. I turned around. She was standing in the doorway, wearing expensive boots that had never seen a day of honest work. I thought you were in the city. I was, but I came back. For you. Don't what? Don't try to fix things? Don't apologize. Don't pretend this is about me. It's not. It's about what I have. Her face went pale. That's not fair. What's not fair is you showing up here, acting like you've changed, when we both know the truth. The truth is that I made a mistake. I was wrong about Victor. I was wrong about everything. You were wrong about me, I said. You saw a poor farm boy and you threw him away. And now that you know he's not poor, you want him back. She stepped closer. That's not how it is. Then how is it? I loved you. I always loved you. I just didn't know how to show it. You had a funny way of showing it. I was scared, Cole. My mother was always in my head, telling me I needed to marry up. She made me believe that love wasn't enough. And now I don't care about any of that. I just want you. I studied her face, the desperation, the tears. You don't want me, I said. You want the idea of me, the money, the security, but you don't want the real thing. Yes, I do. You don't, because the real thing is a man who works in the dirt, who smells like animals, who lives in a place you said smelled like manure. That man was never good enough for you. And he never will be. She started crying. Please, Cole, just give me a chance. I can't. Why not? Because of her? Because of Tara? I didn't answer. I saw you together, she said, at the fair. You were laughing with her. You never laughed with me. Maybe that's because you were never worth laughing with. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I drove her back to town that night. She didn't say much, just stared out the window, watching the landscape blur by. Where are you staying? I asked. A motel. My mother's not exactly welcoming me back with open arms. Can't say I blame her. You're not going to make this easy, are you? Nothing about this has been easy. We pulled up to the motel. She got out, turned back, and looked at me through the open window. I'm going to prove you wrong, she said. I'm going to show you that I can change. I'm going to be the person you deserved. Sloan. What? Don't. She walked away. Tara knew something was wrong the next time we met. You've got that look, she said. The one that says you're carrying something heavy. Sloan came back. Your ex? The one who tried to get you paid off. That one. What did she want? To make amends. To win me back. Tara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, and what did you say? That I'm not interested. Good. Yeah. Nothing's changed. Not with her, not with me. I'm not going back. She nodded slowly. I believe you. Good. But Sloan didn't give up. She started showing up at the ranch. Not in person. She'd learned that lesson, but in other ways, letters delivered by a courier, gifts left at the front gate. Phone calls from numbers I didn't recognize. And then the real escalation. She started talking to the press. You know the story, she said in an interview with a local paper. Boy meets girl. Girl's family makes a mistake. Boy walks away. But there's more to it than that. A lot more. The article painted her as the victim, a woman who'd made a terrible error in judgment, who is now trying to win back the man she loved. I read it in my office, feeling the anger rise. Is she serious? Tara asked after I showed her the article. I think she is. This is insane. She's trying to make you look like the bad guy. I know. What are you going to do? Nothing. Nothing? She'll expose herself eventually. People like her always do. A week later, the local paper ran a follow-up. This time, the focus was on me, on the ranch, on my family's history. The article had been written by a freelance journalist, someone I'd never met, but the quotes were all familiar. He never told me the truth, Sloan said. He let me believe he was just a poor farm boy. He tricked me into falling in love with a lie. The article was full of half-truths and outright lies, but it was also damaging. People believed what they read, especially when it came with a sympathetic face. Are you okay? Tara asked, calling me the next day. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. I'm fine, Tara. I just need to handle this. How? By telling the truth. I called the same journalist and offered an interview. She showed up at the ranch 2 days later, notebook in hand, camera in tow. You're giving me access to the whole property? She asked, surprised. Every part. Follow me. I showed her everything. The barns, the pastures, the equipment, the staff. I showed her the records, the ledgers, the inventory. And then I showed her the files. The ones I'd kept on Sloan, on Victor, on everything that had happened. You said you wanted the truth. I said, here it is. She read the documents for an hour, her expression shifting from skepticism to shock to something that looked like pity. This is a lot. This is what really happened. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I didn't think I had to. I thought walking away was enough. But Sloan decided to make it public. So now it's public. The journalist looked at me. This is going to make her look terrible. That's not my problem. The article ran the next week. It was fair, balanced. It told both sides of the story, but the evidence spoke for itself. Sloan had cheated. Sloan had helped a man who tried to destroy my life. And she'd done it all for money. The backlash was immediate. Social media turned on her. Her mother tried to run damage control, but it was too late. The damage was done. Sloan called me one last time. I can't believe you did this, she said, her voice raw and broken. You started it. I was trying to win you back. By destroying my reputation? I didn't think. No, you never do. I hung up and blocked her number. For good. Tara came over that night with wine and takeout. So, she said, popping open the bottle. Looks like it's finally over. I think so. What are you going to do now? I'm going to live my life. The way I should have all along. With anyone special? I smiled. Maybe. There's this woman. Smart. Tough. Knows how to handle a ranch. Good. She sounds like a keeper. She is. The morning after the article ran, I woke up to 57 messages. Most of them were from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old classmates, distant relatives, business associates who'd heard the story and wanted to weigh in. I deleted all of them without reading. Then I went out to the pasture and checked on the herd. Everything was as it should be. The cattle were grazing. The fences were intact. The water troughs were full. The world hadn't ended just because Sloan had decided to make a fool of herself. I leaned against the fence and let myself breathe. Tara came by that afternoon. She was carrying a cooler full of beer and a bag of sandwiches from the diner in town. Thought you might need this, she said, setting everything down on the tailgate of my truck. You read the article? Everyone read the article. My dad called me this morning. He said, that girl's got more nerve than brains. Your dad's not wrong. He's rarely wrong. She handed me a beer. You okay? I'm better than okay. I'm relieved. Relieved? Now everyone knows the truth. I don't have to carry it anymore. She sat down beside me on the tailgate, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her shoulder against mine. Yeah, I've been thinking. About what? About us. About what comes next. She looked at me, her eyes steady and sure. What comes next is whatever we want it to be. I proposed to her 6 weeks later. It wasn't fancy that I didn't hire a violinist or rent out a restaurant. I took her to the hilltop, where I used to watch the sunset as a kid, when the whole world seemed endless, and I told her I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. She said yes. And then she said, you better mean that. I mean it. Good, because I'm not like Sloan. I don't run. I don't lie, and I don't give up. I kissed her and felt something shift inside me. The past was finally over. The wedding was small. Just family and close friends. No press, no drama, no speeches about destiny or plot twists. Just two people standing in front of a judge, promising to build a life together. My father cried. I pretended not to notice. My mother held Tara's hand and whispered something that made her laugh. And then it was over and we were married and the whole world felt like it was opening up. Sloan didn't attend. She wasn't invited, but I heard she'd try to get in anyway, made a scene at the gate, and been turned away by security. I heard she'd been drinking. I heard she'd been screaming my name. I heard she'd been arrested. Tara was the one who told me a few days after the wedding. Your ex-girlfriend made the news, she said, handing me her phone. I read the headline. Woman arrested for trespassing and public intoxication. That's her. You sure? I'd recognize that desperation anywhere. I scrolled through the article. Sloan had shown up at the ranch, demanded to see me, and refused to leave when asked. She'd started yelling, then throwing things, then hitting a security guard. The police had been called. She'd been taken away in cuffs. Did she hurt anyone? I asked. Just herself. I put the phone down and looked at the sky. She's not going to stop, I said. She's going to keep doing this. Keep showing up. Keep causing problems. She can't. She's been arrested. There's a restraining order now. A piece of paper won't stop her. Then we deal with it. Together. I looked at Tara. You're not afraid? I grew up on a ranch, Cole. I've dealt with worse than a desperate ex-girlfriend. The restraining order worked for about 2 months. Then Sloan found a way around it. She started contacting me through other people. Not directly, she was too smart for that, but through mutual acquaintances, old friends, anyone who would listen. She says she just wants to apologize. One of them told me. She says she's in therapy. She says she's changed. She's not changed. She's just gotten better at lying. Cole, I'm not telling you to take her back. I'm just saying she's having a hard time. Maybe a conversation. Nothing. No conversation. No meeting. No messages. If she contacts me again, I'm calling the police. The friend went quiet. You really hate her that much? I don't hate her, I said. I just don't want her in my life. Victor's sentencing happened 6 months after the wedding. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. I'd already seen what he'd done. Already heard what he had to say. The trial had been enough. But I read the transcripts. He'd given another speech, long, rambling, full of delusions about being the hero of a story that had gone off script. He talked about destiny and plot points and the author who'd betrayed him. The judge had given him 30 years. 30 years in a federal prison. No chance of parole. He was still screaming about his rightful place when they dragged him away. I felt sorry for him in a way. He believed so completely in his own myth that he destroyed everything real. But I didn't feel bad enough to visit. Sloan's mother called me 6 months after that. She sounded old, broken, nothing like the woman who'd counted out $10,000 on a glass desk. Cole, she said, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to ask you something. What? Sloan's not well. She's been in and out of treatment. She keeps talking about you, about how she ruined everything. That's not my problem. I know it's not, but she's my daughter. I can't just watch her destroy herself. What do you want me to do? I want you to talk to her, just once. Just let her say what she needs to say. Maybe it will help. Help who? Her, me, everyone. I thought about it, about the woman who'd tried to buy me off, about the daughter who'd lied and schemed and tried to ruin my life. No, I said. Please. No, I'm done. I've been done for a long time. She started crying on the phone, ugly, desperate sobs. Please, she said again. No. I hung up and blocked her number. Tara found me in the barn later that night. Your mother called me, she said. She said Diane contacted you. She did. Are you okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. I sat down on a bale of hay and looked at her. She wanted me to talk to Sloane one last time, to give her closure. And what did you say? I said no. Good. Tara, I've spent so long dealing with her, dealing with Victor, dealing with all of it. I just want to move on. I want to live my life without looking over my shoulder. You can. She sat down beside me. She can't hurt you anymore. None of them can. You sure about that? I'm sure about us. That's all that matters. The next year was the best of my life. The ranch flourished. The herd grew. The partnership with the Morrisons expanded into something that benefited both families. And Tara and I built a life together. We traveled. We worked. We laughed. We fought, sometimes, but always made up. She never tried to change me, never asked me to be someone I wasn't. She just loved me, the way I was, the way I'd always been. We had a daughter. We named her Grace because she was Grace, a miracle, a gift. I held her in my arms and felt the past fall away. Everything I'd been through, the betrayal, the heartache, the struggle, it had led me here, to this moment, to this family. I didn't regret any of it. Not because it was easy, but because it had made me who I was. And who I was someone who could love like this. One night, when Grace was 3, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Sloane. Cole, she said, her voice softer than I remembered. Please don't hang up. Why are you calling me? I just wanted to say goodbye. Goodbye. I'm leaving the state. I'm going to start over somewhere else. Somewhere far away. That sounds like a good plan. I know you probably hate me. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. You already said that. I know, but I mean it now, more than I did before. I was quiet for a moment. Go, I said. Start over. Find something better. Cole, don't call me again. I hung up, and for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I just felt nothing. I walked back inside and found Tara reading a story to Grace by the fireplace. Who is that? She asked, looking up. Wrong number. She didn't push. She just smiled and went back to the story. I sat down beside them and pulled Grace into my lap. Daddy, she said, why are you smiling? Because I'm happy, I said. Because I have everything I ever wanted. She hugged me, and I felt it, the truth of the moment. This was my life now. Not the one I'd planned, but the one I'd built. And it was more than enough.